All right, welcome back, everybody, to day 9. Today, we are going to revisit our old self-image, but this time at a deeper level. And I know that you guys have done this in week 1. And in week 1, it was to get you familiar with our main reprogramming formula, the BTFA, but it was really to help you to identify your beliefs and how those beliefs created different thoughts in your adulthood from childhood, and they emanated an emotion or a feeling. Those emotions or feelings motivated you to take certain effective actions or ineffective actions. And in doing that, they produced a result. Those results in your life are what you see today, what you see in front of you, actually you being in this cohort right now, what you're wearing, where you're living, how much you're making, who you're dating, who you're not dating, all of those different things, all of your experiences, those are your results. And those results either reaffirm your belief or they contradict it. They might reaffirm your current beliefs because they might be subconscious. And subconsciously, you might be saying, I'm not enough. They might be contradicting it because you might think that your belief is like, oh, yeah, I am enough. I am worthy. I am all these different things. But your results in your life show something completely contrary to that. So if this feels repetitive, it's intentional. It is supposed to be repetitive, because a belief doesn't change through one insight or a week alone. It changes through that layered awareness to normalize the process. Same belief, new depth, new clarity. One of the biggest misunderstandings about doing this type of work is thinking that you are fixing a belief once, or even twice, or even 3 times. This is a lifestyle. It's an ongoing thing. When I discovered my limiting belief and I created a whole podcast on it, on the Wealthy Minded podcast, and it started my whole journey. And I remember creating my first video on Instagram, unscripted, just I felt like I wasn't enough. And this impacted my dating life and impacted how I showed up at work and all those different things. That was in 2016. I'm still working through that in this year. And it just shows up as a new devil at a different level. It shows up as a new person wearing something completely different. It shows up as a new state. It shows up as, you know, you facing something that you thought that you were going to overcome, but it just pops up like, what is that game? Whack-A-Mole? I think that's the game, Whack-A-Mole or something like that. Yeah.
Whack-a-mole.
Whack-A-Mole. There you go. So that's why I'm trying to get you in the habit of continuing to reinforce and go back to that original belief. Become aware of all your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions that have come from that. Your limiting beliefs are not single thoughts, they're an identity pattern. And so when I recognized this identity pattern, I was like, okay, cool. For my engineering, my past engineering, I was like, okay, well, how do we reverse engineer into reprogramming the entire human system, specifically the subconscious system? And that started with the belief. The identity starts with the belief. And then you start building your identity through reinforced thoughts, stored emotions in the body, and expressed through behaviors and your actions. That's why the formula BTFA works. It doesn't just change what you're thinking, it changes your identity or how your identity operates. So, are there any questions? Are there any comments? Are there any reasons to despair?
Yeah, I had a I think you kind of answered the first part of it,
Hmm.
but I was wondering going through this, so it sounds like we're sticking with the same exact belief of what we did in the week one.
Yes.
So, and then it are you supposed to just copy paste basically what you put for the BTFA for week one, or is it you stay with the same belief, but then you just redo the thoughts and emotions because those might be different.
Yep.
You have different ones that come to you as you're writing it, but the belief stays the same.
Exactly. The belief
Okay.
stays the same. If you want to change your belief because you feel like, okay, I worked on a small belief and that was really easy for me to work on, I can move on to another one, then fine. But my recommendation is through just 21 days to stick with the same belief. And in week one, it's going to be more surface level. And in this week, week two, we're going down into the emotional root of it. So when you revisit it, think about it every time you see the same movie, you read the same book, or you visit the same place. You always look at and see something different every single time. And it just makes you become more familiar with the patterns that you need to interrupt. Where, for specifically for you, Adam, where you need to make those intentional pauses where I need to stop and say, okay, no, I'm going back into scarcity mode. I'm going back into I don't know enough. And now I'm specifically aware I can stop because I've been doing it over and over and over and over again. And now I'm revisiting, and now I'm seeing different patterns that come from the same belief. And when you can see all those different patterns, that's when you can make the intentional pauses and you can start shifting your identity into the most optimized way.
Got it. Thank you.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that that kind of relates to my question. Michael, I felt like when I did this exercise again the second time around, and then then I tried to do it a third time too. But I kind of felt like the answers I was getting for myself, especially when I was filling out my workbook, I kind of felt like they were the same. I felt almost like I'm stuck in that sense. Like I just want to ask you, like, is that okay? Is that what's supposed to be? Is it I figured it out one time in the first time, or is it something that I need to? I feel like yeah, the answer is I'm answering myself. I need to dig deeper, but
Mhm.
I don't know how to put those in words. I guess I don't know. Do you have any advice on how to
When you
dig deep?
when you say put those in words, you mean how to fill out the BTFA?
Yeah, because like I'm you trying to use the workbook as my guide, and so
Right.
I'm going through the process. I'm filling out answering those questions, but I just kind of feel I don't know. Uninspired isn't the right word. It's just for lack of a better one. I don't feel like my answers are changing from that first time I did it to the second time that I've done it.
Yeah. The, get used to the boring. If your
Oh,
answers aren't changing, that's totally fine.
okay,
It's a repetition exercise rather than something that's supposed to be innovative and super creative. This
okay,
is this is pretty boring. And it's boring because you're continuing to do the same thing over and over for the rest of your life.
okay,
But this is where the identity gap and your specific gaps start to close. You have these gaps and you're becoming more aware, more aware, more aware, more aware, more aware, more aware. And the more awareness you put to that, the more you can reinforce a specific change. Because when you see it, now you can do something about it.
okay. And that kind of makes sense. Like I feel like now I've got to the point where I can recite those things word for word, like
Yeah,
my what my limiting belief is. So um that I guess yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I guess I felt like I kind of felt subconscious, like, well, man, I'm not putting anything new. Is this right? Is this wrong? And I started to doubt myself a little bit, and
just keep rewriting it. Maybe do it
that's
from
that consistency gap, right? Just
yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
just
Just keep doing it and get used to the boring. The boring is what actually creates the life. But think about it like this. These these beliefs and doing this type of work, it's important not because of the different stories that you tell yourself, but because it shows how a single belief can shape decades of your behavior.
right.
So I want you guys to, and girls who, anybody who's watching on the videos as well, to give yourself some grace. You've only done this for a week, 9 days, but you've been shaping your behavior for the last few decades. So when we're going through this repetition, imagine being 200 pounds overweight and you go to the gym for a good 9 days straight. You're not going to see the results that you want to see right away. You're not going to lose 200 pounds in 9 days. It's just not going to happen unless something very unhealthy unless you just went through a surgery or something. I don't know, something very drastic. But this, we're not doing that here. This is going to take time. But if you're willing to put in the time to do it, then you'll start to see the results very quickly. Meaning, if you're willing to put in at least 21 days straight, then something will start to trigger, like some type of memory will start to form, and it will reinforce some type of different behavior. Those different actions and behaviors that we talked about, BTFA, that's what creates the results in the reality that you see. And that's what we're essentially trying to do. What we're optimizing for is a more elevated reality, right? So we don't change the action first, we change the belief that's creating the action. Because if we went directly to the action and didn't go to the root cause of the belief, now we're just optimizing for, quick hits, quick dopamine hits. Like, okay, cool. I changed this action, but you'll always come back to your mean, meaning you'll always come back to the base level of who you really are. And we want who you really are to be this person. We want you to be the most optimized person so that when you come back to your average, you're already at a 10. A belief formed early in life doesn't disappear. That's why this is super important when success arrives or when you start seeing success. It hides, it adapts, and it becomes more sophisticated. So we got to be like ninjas and, just working in the shadow period in the darkness of like, oh, okay, you hit this time, but now I'm coming back in week two, and now I see you. Okay, cool. I caught you. I caught these type of beliefs and I caught, these types of thoughts and feelings this time, but I didn't catch everything. Week two, now I'm back and now I see the remaining elements that are really that have hidden themselves from me before. That's why high performers self-sabotage because the b belief matured and it never left and they never did anything about it. They just thought it was a one and done. You guys know what I mean? So, you know, when you think about it, this room is a place to look honestly. I want you, especially you, Justin, to slow down, stay present, and look at it honestly, but not critically, because that's not what this is about. I don't want you to be critical of yourself. Just look at yourself honestly.
Heard.
And that's what the old BTFA is the honest look. Here's the awareness so that I can become aware of how to do things differently.
Heard. Thank you, Michael.
Yep. Is any other questions or anything?
I wanted to just jump in with a insight I had on mine. Um, so I did the old belief system. We redid it, and I thought my major one is I'm not good enough.
Hmm.
Like through this exercise, revisiting it, I found that part of me believes that I'm dumb attached to that good enough one.
Hmm.
And that one actually surprised me because I kind of pride myself on being smart, but I think I don't want to get super deep into it, but it was funny because as I'm going through this process and finding it, I found out that that one actually offended me. Like when I heard it, I was like, what? But it was
Mm,
like, but part of me actually believes that.
mm,
And it was so I think what you said kind of tests to the work. Like sometimes the more you peel it out, the more you're kind of figuring out stuff. So that one was easy for me to eliminate, but I was realizing that it was kind of holding up. It was one of the pillars holding up the I'm not good enough
yeah, Shannon,
belief.
that's a really good one. And let me touch on that really quick why that happens. I always use the example if you throw a bone in a pack of wolves, the one that got hit is going to yelp. Do you guys understand what that means?
Yeah, hit dog gonna holler. We say that down south.
Exactly. So if someone tells me Michael, that's why, you suck, you're broke, and, you're the most unsuccessful person I've ever met. That would never offend me. I would never get upset about that because I feel my belief system is completely opposite. But if somebody told me, like, yeah, Michael, that's why, you're not 6'4" and you're short, I might get a little offended because I'm like, well, 5'9", 5'10" is okay, right? You know? But I was the dog that got hit because I really do believe in that limiting belief. And so whenever and so this brings up a good point. Whenever you get triggered by something or something offends you, think of it as, oh, thank you. I appreciate that. You just helped me to identify my old self-image. Rather than reacting and getting territorial or getting super upset and lashing out, think about it as a favor. Think about it as something where this other person became a mirror for you and helped show you where you're lacking, where your triggers are, what your limiting beliefs are, and what reality you're creating subconsciously or unconsciously. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like you said, it wouldn't have bothered me if I didn't somewhere believe it.
Believe it, yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So thank you for pointing that out. I wanted to kind of put that out there because a lot of people don't really always understand their triggers. They're like, oh, well, this person did this to me and this person said this, and that's why I was upset. And I'm like, well, the wolf that got hit is the one that's going to yelp. So you must believe a part of that is true in order for you to be specifically offended by it, and no one else is upset about it. Exactly. The same thing that just happened. So if that's it, I just kind of wanted to reiterate a couple of things for today. Use the same belief again as you guys all are doing. Complete the BTFA fully. This is the time that where you're going to move from the surface into the emotional work because there's different layers and observe your emotional patterns without trying to fix them. Just observe what the patterns are. Observe if you gotten triggered by some of these things. Observe if you didn't agree initially, but you came back around to it and you're like, ah, observe if you have seen some of those things in your life, but you've been trying to avoid them. And use the meditation to reduce the charge. Journal what shifted, not what disappeared, because it's not going to disappear overnight. Give yourself some grace. Give yourself grace. If the belief still exists, good. You at least know what work you need to do. It's not hidden. That's perfect. That means you're seeing it clearly because awareness always precedes release. So that means you're on the right track. Oh man, the belief still exists. Perfect. Pinpoint that, start there. It's when you're struggling and you don't know if the belief exists or where it exists and all those different things. If you can rightly say this doesn't exist anymore, okay, great. There are very few people on this earth where that belief doesn't exist at all, 110%. Just know this is going to be a lifetime journey that you're managing. It's kind of like an alcoholic or a drug addict. They never get rid of the alcoholism. They just learn to manage it and they become, like Yoda with it, like at one day at a time. And 20, 30 years later, they're just so much further ahead and they're like, that's no longer a part of my life, but it's not completely out of my life. It's something that I'm always going to have to be self-responsible for. Okay? So, are there any more questions before we sign off?
Don't think so. Not for me.
Nope.
Well, that was a good
Okay.
one.
Well, today was a good session. I'll see you all tomorrow in day 10. If you have any questions, reach out to me in the community or directly. And thank you again for signing on
Thank you,
today.
Michael.
All right. See you guys.
Thanks, Michael.